you're actually cutting out maybe 25 unnecessary steps, or you're
Hmm.
using technology to get that done for you.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star. Super excited to dive into the topics today. He's a business coach and award-winning blogger. He's the co-founder of Measure U, Measure Summit, and Profit School, Jeff Sauer. Thanks for joining me, man.
Hey, I'm excited to do this. Thanks, Kirby.
Absolutely. I kind of feel like this is the business coach side. I'm going to have you put that hat on first, because I think the best businesses have systems, whether they have them documented or not. They have systems so they can recreate outcomes for themselves and for their clients. But I think that can be intimidating. So how can you create an easy to digest business operating system without making like the wrong investment?
Yeah, no, as somebody who's made the wrong investment many times, I can tell you that trial and error is not the right way to do it. Um, and you can read every business book in the world, and eventually they start to blend together and sound like they're conflicting each other. There's the E-Myth book, which is like how to run a one-person business well, and there's Traction, which is how to run a multi-person business. And then most businesses, small businesses, are somewhere in between, and they're trying to figure it out on their own. Like they get inspired, but then it comes down to it, and they're like, how does this actually work? And I suffered from it because I didn't really know how it worked until I met my business partner, and he basically created a system that we use internally at our business. And it's like, how do you do it as lightweight as possible? And so, for example, instead of having like a project manager or having like a bunch of different roles, it's really more, how do you use, it's so basic. It's like, picture a manila folder that you would keep on your desk back in the old analog days. And then there's a tray with your inbox. We basically have created that digitally. Like, hey, here's the folder with all the information. Here's the Post-it note you put on it. We'll put it on your desk. You tell us when you're working on it, and then when we tell you who to send it to next, and it works that way. So it's basically like the minimum viable system. And it's like, how do you create a folder with everything that you need? We use ClickUp for our system to do that. And then how do you tell whoever you're working with what you need them to do? And then how do they know when they're done and who to pass it on to next? And so we try to make it as lightweight as possible. And we've done that digitally. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but that's really worked out well for us. And it's taken it so that projects would be half complete, or we would just lose track of it, or we get like 80% there and never get it done, to basically getting done a lot more efficiently and effectively, so we can do more for our team.
That's really interesting. And like starting, because it makes sense to me that then once you had that, if down the road you wanted to evolve into a more complex system, you'd know what you'd need in the systems that you were investing in, right? Like, because you've got a system set up. So that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, you grow into that complexity, right? So.
Right. So let's talk about automation. So how can you automate your marketing command center using proven principles and AI tools?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Automation is another thing where that's the end result. Like everything we're talking about is the end result, a system that works for you, automation. A lot of people think that is the action you need to take, but that's not really the case, right? That's the result of taking the right actions. And so the way that you can automate something is one, doing it manually, figuring out what's there, knowing what your principles are, your properties. Like going back to the systems question, we've done this thing over and over again. Do we really need, on the 50th iteration of this thing, do we need to do this thing the same way, or can we automate that? Or not even the 50th iteration nowadays. It's like on the third iteration, if you don't like doing this stuff, can you use AI to get that thing done? Can you use AI to dissect how you were able to achieve that result in the first place? Meaning like, okay, so there's we achieved a result. Maybe it's $1 million in sales or something like that. Well, ultimately, to get to that $1 million of sales, there's a set of steps that needs to happen. And some of those things are unique to you, but most of them are just assembling things you've tried until it becomes your way of doing things. So if you can say the result is $1 million in sales, and we want to automatically do that, then you get back to what the steps are, right? What the steps are to get to that point. And that's ultimately how I look at it: is you get your result and you work backwards. Most people actually say, hey, AI, hey, open AI, hey, Chat GPT or Gemini, give me the result. Really doesn't work that well. And that's why you get worse results. So it's actually like, hey, here's the result I'm trying to get. Can you help me retrace the steps? And then you rebuild it. And then automation is ultimately just your efficiency in getting that done. Like you're not having to go through from step 1 through step 50 anymore. You're actually cutting out maybe 25 unnecessary steps, or you're using
Hmm.
technology to get that done for you.
Yeah, that that makes a ton of sense. I like that, going the opposite way that most of us do. I think that makes a ton of sense. So, I've also heard you say that you can do more by doing less, which I think I don't know, that appeals to me at this point in my career. So, how can we focus just on the data that matters for our business? Because there's just so much data out there.
Yeah.
How do we focus on the right data?
Yeah, data overload's real.
Yeah,
Big data, big data big data just means more data that you're not going to pay attention to.
yeah,
For a while, I would just say focus on small data, which actually was an acronym. But now, really more than anything, it's the idea is it's sort of figuring out what your 80/20 is without having to go through 100 results. A lot of people, again, people try to 80/20 when they have one result, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
well, you're dividing one, you're getting a fractional thing. But if you get 10 results in doing something, or if this thing happens over and over again, you'll find that it's consistent, that the 20% of things are going to move the needle for you and give you the results. So how do you bake that into everything that you do? How do you bake that into how your business operates? And the way that you do it is essentially allowing yourself permission to say, I don't need everything. So we at Measure You, we talk a lot about, like, we train people on Google Analytics. And most people, the evolution has been, people say, hey, how do I learn everything I can do in that tool? How do I learn everything? And that's how I used to teach. I used to teach you everything you could do. And it was a 4-day session in Minneapolis, Minnesota, 16 hours. And you know what? That was great for the diehards. But there's a lot of people who are like, hey, do you know what, Jeff? You probably I just needed about 2 hours of that or 4 hours of that, and I would have gotten to where I want to go. Now we basically say, here's all that you need to get started. And then if you want the advanced stuff, we can give
Mm.
that to you too. And so that's sort of how I look at it, is like, here's what you really need. And then if you want the advanced stuff to be the expert, to really be the SME at your company, to be able to do this as a consultant, then we're there for you as well. But let's just all get on the same page here, and then we'll grow into complexity.
Well, I like that. It's a good business model too, right? You can do the smaller piece, and then let the people who want more do
Yeah.
and are willing to pay for more. I think that's
Yeah.
really smart. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, final question for you. How can we use it? Because we talked a little bit about AI, and that, again, that's the buzzword. That's what everybody wants to talk about, and for good reason, right? But how can we use AI tools to build the marketing team of our dreams?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, technology changes so much that, like, even if we record this and then like a week later, it might be different. But so it's like a moving target. But
Yeah,
principles, again, I always try to stick to principles, because that'll be there for you for a long time. And ultimately, what is, like, let's dissect what a marketing dream team is. Like, if you wanted to have a marketing dream team, you'd probably have David Ogilvy as your copywriter, or Dan Kennedy, or Jay Abraham, or one of these classic people, or you'd have Russell Brunson building you that funnel. You'd have Jason Fladlian doing your webinar, who's a guy that I've been hanging out with lately. You'd have all these legends, right? And they all have books. You'd have Alex Hormozy looking at the whole
yeah,
thing. Like, you
yep,
do these. You literally have that as your marketing team of your dreams right now with Notebook LM. Which, again, who knows what Notebook LM will look like as people are listening to this, but we basically take all the things that these people say, like their swipe files, their sales copy, every video they've ever done, every presentation where they've sold on stage on YouTube, all the public stuff. We throw it into Notebook LM, and then we just ask them, what should we be doing here? Are we following your framework? Is this making sense? Like, we're basically querying the greats. Like, they have achieved immortality, because of their back catalog, their history, and what they're doing. And we just talk to them. We don't talk to general AI. We don't say, hey, go search the internet to figure out some rando
Hmm.
who ranks well in search's opinion of how we should be doing this thing. Hey, get David on the line, get David
Yeah,
Ogilvy on the line, and tell it, and how would
that's
he have handled this
interesting.
problem? And so using like a more specific thing like Notebook LM, you're building that out. Now there's things like agents, and there's gems in Gemini. Every name changes all the time, right? And
Yeah.
it's so hard to keep up with. But the principle is, you get a better result when you talk to an expert, and when you feed it, when you bring a strong game to that expert, they're going to give you something back, right? So you have to elevate what you're doing, but then you talk to the right people, and then have them come back to you. And that's really how we do it. So that will work for this year, next year, and for a long time, right? It's like, how do I tap into the mind? In the past, what you'd do is you'd buy a book on, like, copywriting, then you'd hand write everything. probably don't
Yeah.
need to do that as much anymore, or you do this or that, right? You do these things. Now you just put all those books in every book into a notebook, every presentation, and it's all there for you. And then
Hmm.
you are able to translate that into your business and it's like, does my audience like this? Does this message match and all that stuff? And then that's where it really comes in. So you're taking, you don't, the knowledge is out there. It's really how do you translate that to your business? And I think that's the final mile. That's probably the toughest thing to crack in AI is how does a brand use these other things? And that's really what we've tackled and have found a pretty novel way to do it with us with
Hmm.
Measure You.
Man, you got my wheels spinning. I love this, Jeff. This is awesome. So, where can people find more information about you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, so if they go to measureyou.com, we have a free community they can sign up for. There's 40 plus resources that they can download, like checklists and things for their marketing measurement. A lot of AI stuff. Of course, everybody has to do AI, but we have a novel way of doing it where we're not like trying to do AI for today. We're trying to do AI for the future and for how you think about solving, like how do you get the results you're looking for. And then there's a bunch of free trainings and workshops there as well. We actually put more into our free membership than most paid memberships have in the marketing world. We have a YouTube channel that you can sign up for, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well. It's just /Jeff Sauer on LinkedIn. So that's a good way to get in touch with us. And if you're looking to get trained in this stuff or learn anything, again, our free stuff is a good entry point to learn how it's going. And then if you want to go do more, we're always there to support you at Measure You.
That's awesome, Jeff. Thank you so much. This has been fun. Like I said, you got my wheels turning. We'll have to do it again sometime. Okay.
All right, sounds great. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.